Okay, so step number 1 in fading the target, we want to minimize the target. And there's a few ways that you can do it, depending on the target that you're using. Number 1, if you're doing something with the dog's paws, you might minimize that target by decreasing the height of the target. So if you've got something that's, several inches tall, you keep going down by halves until it's quite small. So decreasing the height. The second thing you could do is decrease the size. So if I'm using a big wiffle ball on a stick as a target, I can go to a smaller wiffle ball on a stick or a smaller target stick. You want to minimize the size so it's becoming less obvious to the dog that there's a target there. You can also consider the color of your target. So whenever I'm going to use a target, say a paw target for my dog, I always pull out my Dog Vision app. And my Dog Vision gives an approximation of what our dogs see. So when I'm first introducing a target, I want great contrast with whatever flooring is underneath. So I'll pull out my Dog Vision and I'll take the color of target that gives me the best contrast to make it super obvious for my dog. When I'm fading the target though, I want one that blends in with the floor so that I'm starting to help my dog to see this is what it looks like when nothing's here. So I've lowered the size of the target, or I've made the target smaller, or I've changed the color so that it blends into the background. Another thing that you can do, and this is a great one for like heel position. I'll do this one when I'm working on my dog sidestepping. So I want my dog to take lateral steps in front of me. It's a fitness exercise. And I start by using 2x4s as paw targets, one in front, one in behind. So what you can do is you can have them sidestep. And when they get really good at doing it on a target, you could have them sidestep off, say 1 step off the 2x4s and then back on. And then maybe 2 steps off the 2x4s and then back on. Or I'll have a set of 2x4s to the left and a set to the right, and there might be like 2 steps in between. So we go off of these 2x4s, a couple of steps in freedom and no man land, and then back up onto the next step. So presenting and removing and presenting. So if I wanted to get like a head position on my dog, if I was doing competition obedience, I might have the target in there. And what I would be doing is clicking the dog when they're not touching. I might teach that head position with them touching the target, but very quickly, early on, I don't want heel position to be associated with touching. So here in North America, unlike in Europe, we get points off if our dog is touching. So if we're using nose targets, then when something's faded and a dog's stressed, they're going to go back to what they first learned, which is touching. So they might start bumping your leg. All right. And so what I'll do is I'll be clicking the nose target when they're not quite touching, but they're getting close. And so when it's time for me to remove that target, I might click one, move it up a little bit higher, then click another, move it back down lower, click, and then put it out behind my back, click and bring it back. So it's back and forth and back and forth. That is how you can fade your target. Now, the way you fade your target is completely dependent upon the type of target that you're using and the behavior you're creating. For example, back to teaching spin with a target stick. What I might do when I'm just getting the dog comfortable with going in a position. And again, this is one where I might start by having them touch the target once or twice, but I really want them just to follow the target stick and not get their nose on it. I want to move that target stick so they don't get a chance to get their nose on it, because I don't want them to know that spin involves touching me in any way. All right, so I'll get them moving and following that target stick in both directions. And then I might choke up on the target stick so it's really kind of like my hand. And then you can go to just your hand. And then what you can do is prompt a little bit with your hand and click the motion to start. And your placement of reinforcement is going to get that dog maybe doing a quarter of the circle. Go on back and use part of your target stick. So the goal of fading a target stick, what you really are doing is fading the presence of a prompt that creates the behavior. That is all you're doing. And so there is no right or wrong way to do it, provided you're not baiting your targets. What it is you want to make sure your dog has clarity and doesn't get frustrated. If your dog is getting frustrated, this is a big mistake that many people will make. They fade their target. They're waiting for the dog to offer the behavior. The dog doesn't do it. So the dog may go part way and stop. And then the owner will say, no, go spin. And the dog goes, okay, and go part way and stop. No, spin, go spin, go spin. So if you keep repeating your cue, what you're doing is you're diluting the effectiveness of your cue, and you're actually rewarding the dog for stopping by repeating the cue. So here's the golden rule. Believe the dog. Always, always believe the dog. So I give my dogs time to work things out. If I give a prompt and they go part way and I click and reward, if they don't go part way, I might give them a second to figure it out, but I believe them. If you truly don't understand what it is I want, then I have faded that target way too early. So I'll just go back and do it again. I'll give you an example. Somebody in one of our online classrooms introduced a dog bed in their kitchen. They wanted their dog to lie in the kitchen. And after a couple of days of that, they removed the dog bed and they expected the dog to lie in that spot. And that just isn't long enough. I've had a dog bed in the same location in my kitchen for years. Now, my dogs will get reinforcement for staying out of the kitchen and staying on that dog bed. So every dog in the household has had reinforcement on that dog bed. I'd be willing to bet if I removed that dog bed tomorrow, there would be dogs just lying on that spot because it represented so much reinforcement. So when in doubt, keep the target in a little bit longer, provided your target isn't baited.